Hi, Melody. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We're so excited to have you on the Skirted Professional podcast today. We can't wait to hear all the knowledge and your experiences that you're going to get to share. We know you are involved in lots of areas of life, whether it be
Right?
professional work, ministry, community outreach, all of those areas. So we're really excited to hear from you today. And to all of our listeners, Melody is a board certified family nurse practitioner, and she's going to tell us all about her practice and where she resides currently in practicing in medicine. And we just are so excited to have you. So, welcome to the Skirted Professional podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, Melody, tell us where it all started. To walk us from the beginning of did you feel called to go into the medical field? What was your path to get you there?
Well, of course, as you know, a nurse practitioner has several steps involved to get there. I became an RN in 1996 when I started nursing school with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old,
Wow.
and I questioned my sanity at the time. But it was successful and it worked. And I'd always wanted to help people. Ever since as a little girl, I always had that desire to be able to help people. And I had my associate degree nursing in 96. And then, the rumors go out that you have to have your bachelor's, yada, yada, yada. Well, my dad became very ill and needed a lot of care. And so I put my life pretty much on hold because to me, family's everything. And in that doing so, I was over our Christian school. I was also a pastor's wife. And I worked PRN, which in the medical profession just means as needed, on the weekends, mostly Saturdays, to do extra things like put my kids through braces or just little things that needed to be done. And when my dad got to where he could no longer take care of himself and it was a lot on my mom, I kind of put all that on hold, but then I was extremely bored out of my mind just sitting with him, and I thought, well, I'll go back to school. I'll get my bachelor's. I did that online and I loved it.
Awesome.
Dad continued with his illness, so I said, well, I'm having so much fun, I'm just going to keep on going. And that's when the craziness started. Again, I was still pastor's wife and still going to school full-time as a nurse practitioner and caring for my family, caring for my dad. He did pass away, so he was unable to see me graduate, but I feel like he saw me from heaven.
Absolutely.
So I graduated in 2016 with the highest honors. It was a very crazy, difficult process, but through God's help, I didn't go completely insane and managed to get it done. During the course of my studies, I did not like the way I saw the, quote, pill for an ill in my clinical rotations. And I've always been somewhat natural-minded, and my husband also was very, very ill with seizures, with gouty arthritis, and we had tried so many things to help him. We were unable to get a lot of, it was just take this pill, see this specialist, see this specialist. And word got out at the church that we needed to go see this guy who was a nutritionist, and he did this weird thing called muscle testing, and I was like, what in the world is that? So mind you, we're seeing someone totally off in left field, kind of conventionally.
Sure.
And he starts making progress with my husband, and at the time I had about a year of school left, and we went to see him, and I said, I'm quitting. And he said, you're quitting? Why are you quitting? I said, I don't want to do what I'm seeing every day. I don't want to just prescribe medicine that adds to one more symptom.
Sure.
I want people to get off their medication. And he told me, and it was Dr. Serge Gregoire, and he has since prayed through the Holy Ghost and attends our church, actually.
Awesome.
And
Wow.
he has a business, Mind Body Solutions, And he told me, he said, keep going, because you'll be able to do what I do, and you'll be able to do even more than what I do. I guess he was referring to prescribing or whatever. So I took his word for it and kept going, and the rest is history. I planned on opening up my own clinic because it was funny. We used to have a little boutique called Kate McKenna's Boutique.
Cool.
And my daughter McKenna ran it, and she was getting married and moving away, and I was in this lease here where I am right now in Pasadena, Texas.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay, well, ignorance is bliss, right? So I said, oh, well, I'll just open my own practice. So that's what I did.
That is so cool. So I have a couple comments on what you said. I want to circle back to you starting school with, I think you said a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Yes.
And I'm sure with our listeners, we have several women who are either in that position or who are considering wanting to go back to school but not knowing how that's going to look. Can you give some practical advice or just some tips and tricks for those women who maybe are struggling doing that right now or who are considering doing that?
If you are doing it right now, make sure you have a good support system. I couldn't have made it without a support system.
That's good.
You know, clinicals in the nursing profession, you have to leave sometimes. Here in Houston, we would have to leave about 5:30 in the morning. No daycare is open at that time, so my husband was able to step in and take the kids to daycare. I also ended up having to hire a babysitter to just come into my home because it was too hard after my daughter got really sick going to daycare. She was hospitalized 2 or 3 times during my nursing school rotation. So I would stay with her all night and then have to go to clinicals or whatever. It was crazy. I don't remember a lot about that time in my life because it was traumatic. And if you've been there, you understand. What triggered me to do this is I told my nurse during the delivery of Caitlin, my daughter who was born in '93, I told her, I've always wanted to be a nurse. And now I think it's too late because here I'm having another baby and I have a 1.5-year-old at home.
Yeah.
And she inspired me and she said, it's never too late. Do it.
It's awesome.
I was like, okay. So that's, if you haven't started this journey and it's something you've always wanted to do, just do it.
Just
do it. You can do this if you make up your mind and have God's blessing, and He's the one that gives us the strength, and you can do it. You can do this.
I love that. And a lot of times it just starts with making up your mind that you want to, and then taking that first initial step. And then you look back and it's 2 years later and you've got your degree and you're working, and you're right, it's a blur because for that season of life, your head is in the books and you know
all the time.
I have to compartmentalize. This season of my life is hard. It's not fun. But you're ultimately setting your future up to be beautiful, you know, to be able to financially support yourself with or without a husband, to have a fallback plan if you don't have to work full time. You can always go back to nursing and so, or to that profession. So I think
sure. And it's been such a blessing to us in our lives. Like my husband, when the kids were younger, I think in 2001, we moved to Waco for a time being for his ministry. So he was, you know, working on his ministry at the time, developing it basically.
Sure.
And we were so broke. And I was like, I literally picked up the phone and made a phone call and got a job the same day. And I was able to work. They worked around my schedule, and it was such a blessing to be able to help my family so my husband could do what he was called to do, and then in turn be able to help the family eat. I mean, you know, survive, pay our bills. It's just wonderful.
And that's another area, of course, I'm biased to the nursing profession, but it's so vast, so vast. I mean, you can literally find something to do around every corner. There's a place for a nurse, you know, in so many facets. So I think that's great advice for our women who may be in that area. And so then I want to ask, you said you kind of saw a more natural approach that you wanted to take. And it's funny because I don't know you super well. We have connected through See Saucy, and you have
Right.
some scrubs on right now and our jacket, which it looks so cute. But I didn't know that you're kind of the more natural medicinal way. And I love it because that is one reason I have not pursued nurse practitioner, is because I'm not a fan of the normal approach to medicine.
Yeah.
And I saw probably the same things you did. And to me, it's just a Band-Aid on a problem. And
Exactly
so
right.
when you decided to make that switch, and I think this is very fascinating for a lot of women who are going to listen to this, you decided to finish your nurse practitioner program. Did you have to change your professional course at all? Did you have to take other classes? Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like? Is it a certificate after you graduate? Kind of walk us through that part of getting into more the naturalistic medicine.
Okay. I jokingly say it was the school of hard knocks.
Okay.
And because literally in my program, I had one elective, I remember, for my bachelor's that I was able to choose holistic nursing.
Awesome.
That's it.
Yeah.
Other than the nutritional course, which is one quick course that you have to take it for your bachelor's, there was no preparation. None. I just knew I didn't want to do it that way, so I began researching.
Okay.
I joined the American Holistic Nurses Association. I also use a weird, some people think it's weird, it's called Zyto.
Okay.
And if you've ever had a Young Living scan, like with Young Living essential oils, when you put your hand on the cradle and it can see what oils are best energetically for your body, someone had introduced that to me, and I really thought, because we're so trained conventionally that that's a bunch of craziness, I was like, I'm not the least bit interested in this.
Right.
That's we're trained conventionally that that's just ridiculousness. But I had reached a point when I myself was sick of being sick. I had had bronchitis over and over again. Actually, even had pneumonia. And one of the saints in our church said, "I wish you would come over and get a scan for my sister-in-law." And she kept after me, and finally, basically just to get her off my back, I said, "Okay, fine, I'll come." And that scan showed I needed all these oils for my lungs and my immune system, and I was literally blown out of the water. So I had that experience in the back of my mind, and then in fact I had actually purchased the Zyto machine to be able to do the same for essential oils, because always being like a little on the thinking, there's an oil for that, or maybe we could do something with that. So that doesn't fit anywhere. So I had some, training from just Young Living, basically, the essential oils and all that. I contacted Zyto when I had maybe a year or a little under a year left. And I asked them, I know you have the Zyto scan for just essential oils for any person. I thought you had to be licensed, but I'm not really sure now. Like a massage therapist or anybody could use the Zyto for the oils. But I told him, I said, I thought I remembered seeing somewhere where practitioners have used this. Is that a possibility as a nurse practitioner? Could I use something like this? It's not FDA approved, FDA cleared. It's FDA cleared, it's not FDA approved. There's a difference. So, and it doesn't diagnose anything. So I have to always tell my patients that, but I use that as a roadmap here in my practice to scan my patients and see where do we need to focus on. And energetically, basically the body doesn't lie. It can overshoot, but I've never seen it undershoot. So that kind of started the process. And then I began to just study. Where did I study? I can't even tell you where I began. I mean, I learned that ozone was very valuable in helping the body. And, according to some, it's a toxic gas, but yet, according to Western medicine, ozone can be used to kill virus, bacteria, fungi, parasites, all of these issues. So one bunny trail literally led to another, and I would go to training and go to training. I've been certified using the organic acids test, and that is a urine test that actually looks at the gut. Because as you know, if you can heal the gut, you can heal the body.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much our motto around here. Heal the gut, heal the body.
Okay. Love
So
that.
I don't just rely on Zyto, though. I do blood work. I do saliva testing.
Okay.
And then we do Zyto on top of all that, along with wherever we need to go with the organic acids test, the urine test, wherever we go from there.
Okay.
And my goal is to get people off medicine, not
So-
put them on it.
I was going to say, do you ever prescribe conventional medicine? You do?
Oh, yeah. It's very needed. There's a time and a place for it.
Okay. Good.
The route we go is a lot of my patients are more natural, and they want to try the natural route first. A lot of times it works, and there is never a prescription intervention that's needed. But sometimes that antibiotic is absolutely necessary. Sometimes I have to literally argue with them and say, no, you need this.
Take it.
Listen to me. You need this. We can work on your gut after you get off this prescription, but you need this. So I do both.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So and I'm even asking for personal use of just some of my family members could really benefit probably from healing the gut. With the organic acid test, you're speaking terms as a nurse I've never heard of. And so
Right. You don't hear from this.
Never. I love it. I know nothing about what that test involves. But is that just a urine sample and then you
Yes.
test it a certain way? Okay.
It's a urine sample that the patient collects in their own home, and they send it to the Great Plains lab.
Okay.
And it's analyzed. And believe it or not, the amazing thing about even ADHD and autism is it can lead back to an overgrowth of bacteria or yeast in the gut. And then we use a protocol, and it works wonders.
And so from that protocol, do you have natural supplements that you'll prescribe? And
Yes.
Really cool stuff.
Yes.
Love it. I'm learning a lot, and I know all of our listeners are as well. And go ahead and give us a plug for your specific clinic. What is the name of your clinic?
The name is Healing From Within. And when I wanted to start the website, healingfromwithin.com was not available. So we made the website be www.healingfromwithinhouston.com.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to put that in the comment and tag your Instagram page as well.
Yes, and the Houston is on the Instagram page as well.
Okay. Well, that is so cool. Now, for any listeners who may be interested, are they able from any state to send in for the organic acid test? Could they send through the mail? Okay.
What my protocol is for every new patient is we do a functional lab panel. That's blood work through LabCorp. And it can be done, they just go to any LabCorp anywhere. LabCorps are all over the U.S.
Right.
They go to LabCorp for their blood work. And they do a saliva hormone test if they're 30 or above, or if they have hormone issues. And based upon that is where we go from there.
Okay. Good to
Now,
know.
if it's a young child coming in, say for ADHD, that's on medication, then we would go straight the organic acids route. So it kind of depends on the age and the diagnosis and so on and so forth.
Awesome. And are you the sole practitioner at your practice?
I am.
Very cool.
I am. My preceptor, that was my favorite. He's also Pentecostal, and he told me, you've got to make a choice whether you do conventional or you're more, natural. And I was like, I don't believe that. And we agreed to disagree on that. And that's where they came up with the word integrative. So an integrative practitioner is someone who uses conventional medicine but also uses Western medicine, and it's just a blend of the two.
I love that. And I think for me in my personal life as a patient going to someone, I would want to know that they have the knowledge of both sides, that they're
Yes,
not going to just prescribe me something because that's what was taught to them, like this is what you do, but they have a reference point of this is when you need conventional medicine, and we do believe it, there's a time and a place for that. But
yes,
let's do the least invasive first. That's what we're taught as nurses. You always start with least invasive. And so
right,
could it be that these natural routes are least invasive before you go to heavy medications? So I love
right.
that. And as a patient, I think I would feel way more trusting that you're going to take everything I'm telling you and bounce it between these two different spectrums and then find the best plan for me
Yes,
somewhere in the
that's what we
middle.
do.
That's
That's what we
really
do.
cool. Really cool. Okay, so along your journey, you've had to go through schooling, and I know you mentioned your bachelor's program was online. Was your master's program online as well?
Yes, it was
But
online for the learning, but I had to search for my own places
okay.
for the clinicals, yeah, and you have to do clinicals just like anywhere else.
And for the clinical side, did you partner up with a more natural physician? You
No.
didn't. Okay.
One day I was literally so disgusted that that's kind of what led me to tell Dr. Surge that I'm quitting. I'm quitting because the clinic where I was, the doctor, I was trying to make sense of the notes that were in the patient's chart, and it made absolutely no sense.
Hmm.
And he told me, he said, "You're taking too long with my patients. Copy and paste and go to the next one."
Interesting.
And I was like, well, no wonder it doesn't make sense. Because you're
Wow.
copying and maybe not he, but whoever was copying and pasting everything from the previous, and nothing matched
Right.
because there were more symptoms that came from the last prescription.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big turnoff.
And that's when I was like, I'm not doing this. I am not going to do that. This is not why I practically killed myself through school
Right.
to copy and paste. I'm not going to do that.
Good for you. I love that. So, along your journey, being a person of faith and having certain standards for yourself, have you encountered resistance or have there been any instances about maybe something you chose to wear or a belief system that you hold that you have had to kind of overcome throughout your journey?
Oh, always, always. I was very blessed way back before the days of Seesaw. So you probably weren't even born. But my very first clinical rotation, when we were going into the OR, a lady from my church happened to work at the hospital. And so the hospital sterilized her scrub dresses for her, and she had her own there. That is unheard of. And normally it would be it wouldn't have been allowed.
Right.
Like you cannot wear street clothes into the OR, and you must wear these scrubs. Well, luckily she stepped in, and I learned right then and there, hey, it is okay.
Yeah.
At the time, I believe when I started nursing school, they had just opened up the scrubs for the girls. Before that, it was always the nurses always wore dresses, the students always wore dresses. So there were still a few of us still in the white, ugly white dresses.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes. So I didn't feel as out of place during school at the time because that was the kind of the uniform, and it had just been implemented. So many other people were still wearing them. I can't
Sure.
imagine what they go through now, but that opened the door. And then I learned the motto: don't ask, just show up wearing your dress.
Sure.
And I've never ever been sent home from any job, anything. I worked catching babies as an RN for a while, and it was, I would go in the OR and the whole 9 yards, and there was never, ever a problem.
Yeah.
So don't ask, just show up.
I love that. I love that. And it's so funny because I went on a job interview for my last job, and I had prayed beforehand, like, God, how do I approach this? Because it was
Yes.
OR position. And that was an area I had no experience in as far as the dress code and things like that. And I knew God was specifically putting me in that position to be able to help see saucy customers. Like, you walk this road so that you know what you can do to help. So I was thankful for that. But I remember going into the interview, and it went great. It was awesome. And then afterward, I left, I went home, and that's when I felt the nudge to email that interviewer and say, by the way, I am going to wear a skirt. So if your facility can find me a skirt to wear in the OR, that's fine. And so I approached it afterward, after I had already been offered the job. It was, I accept. And just so you know, I'm going to wear a skirt. So that's what it is.
Yes.
But I love that. I love that. So as your patients come in, I mean, I'm sure they don't ask you just straight off why you wear something different. Some of them may, but do you still notice different looks sometimes, or kind of catches them off guard a little bit?
Well, counting myself, I have 4 employees, and 3 of us wear saucy.
Awesome.
And then my RN wears regular scrubs. We're working on her to win her over.
Sure.
But I've not really. It's just like, I guess it's just known. They always comment on how cute we all look. They love the scrubs.
Awesome.
They love them.
Yeah.
And we love them.
And you look professional. It's a different look. So
totally. You just put together, before you created See Saucy, we had to go the route of buying the scrub sets and then having them turned into a skirt. So you have the classic little V up the middle with, that would come undone sometimes when you would sit down because the skirt was too tight or whatever. And I've been there, done that many, many times.
I'll never forget when I finally just drew the line and was done with it. I had 6 sets of scrubs. The pants turned into a skirt. And I had to go buy extra large pants for them to be made into a medium skirt.
Yes.
And every one of the skirts, God bless the lady who did them, she was great, but every one of them had this, I'm going to cry thinking about it, this awkward little extra area in the rump from the pant being let out. So everything looked good, and then I would just have like this little extra bit of material right under my rear end, and I just remember hating that and wanting longer tops to go over it. So I think that's a universal issue. When you turn pants into the skirt, you may always have that little tail, but I think when patients walk into your room and you're confident in who you are, then you just really don't leave questions for them in their mind. It's just this person knows who they are and what they believe, and I think that's really, really cool. I'm sure it goes a long way with your patients.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay, so right now you are a nurse practitioner. You mentioned earlier in the beginning that you are a pastor's wife and you have children. So kind of tell us the balancing act of, do you work 5 days a week, 40 hours a week professionally, and then you've got duties in all these other areas. So currently where you are right now, how does that look for you as a mom, as a practitioner, as a pastor's wife, and the balancing act of all of that?
You have to be a very good juggler. No.
Yeah.
The key to all of this, I feel like you can do anything as long as you take care of yourself. So self-care, self-care, self-care. I do not work on Mondays.
Okay.
I am by nature an introvert. So in studying and learning about my personality, I learned that I have to unplug. I have to unplug. and Monday is my day to unplug, especially after Sunday, because as you know, Sunday we give everything.
Sure.
And so my clinic is open on Mondays, but I do not work on Mondays.
I love
I
that.
have, yes, I have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't work the other time. My day usually starts, I also have horses.
That's
So my day
therapeutic.
usually starts, yes, it's therapeutic. It's stressful, but it's a stressful therapeutic thing. I started recently to get the exercise I need because of the time in the day. I just get up a little earlier, go to the barn, take care of the chores, feed the horses, do all that, get my good workout in, go home, shower, get ready for work, go to work. As soon as work is over, our office hours are 9 to 5. If we're lucky, we get out of here at 5 o'clock. Usually it's 5:30, 6-ish,
Yeah.
you know. And then from there, it's usually a meeting with someone from church related. It's church business, taking someone from the church. You know, it's always
Sure.
church. And then, and it's time to go to bed. So Monday is my day. And then Wednesdays, I try to work from home. So my patients who are out of state, who they're just phone consults, or I also do a little 10-minute free phone chat with anybody who wants to know what I do, how can I help them, so on and so forth. I devote my Wednesdays to doing that. So
Awesome.
I'm working, but yet I'm in my own environment, and so it's a little bit less stressful because
That's
I
awesome.
do give everything I have on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday,
Sure. And then
Saturday, Sunday.
I was going to say, do you reserve certain times for your family? Or I don't know the ages of your kids now, but do you have a set day where it's, I'm not going to respond past this time because I'm with family?
I we used to do Tuesday nights as family night. My kids are all grown and married now,
Okay.
and I have 6 grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
How
the youngest
exciting.
was just born 2 weeks ago,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
my oldest grandson is 5.
Okay.
So they are my life. My children, my family is, their
Sure.
priority.
Yeah.
So we do family nights where we used to do Taco Tuesday, and then Tuesdays we started having meetings for the church. So we resorted to Monday, and that also is good because what I was finding was Tuesday after getting off work and then running to prepare the meal and having
Sure.
it was too much.
Yeah.
So with me having my free time on Monday, then it's also family night, and we'll invite my mom and people over. We'll all eat dinner together and spend time together. And then we usually try to go to lunch. 2 of my kids live here, my married children, and then my daughter, who was the one that it was at her delivery when I told the nurse.
Awesome.
She lives in Colorado,
Okay.
and I try to go see them as often as I can. Um, but yeah, it's just, you just juggle. You just have to, you set your priorities and you don't stray from it. And
Right.
first and foremost is God, and second is family, and then everything else.
Love that. And I think what we're finding in doing these interviews, kind of a common thread, is in order to be successful in all of these areas of life, that comes with a form of a boundary that the
Yes,
professional has to put in place for themselves. And I love that you said self-care, because you're nothing to your patients if you've not had that time. You're nothing to the saints of your church if you've not put in that time for yourself. And so it's really cool that we're talking about this. Something I've recently been studying out is what it means to have a Sabbath. And it sounds like
yes,
a Monday is your Sabbath. And I love that.
yes,
And I think that's so beneficial. And I think our culture is kind of turning towards that a little bit of, it's no more just hustle and go, go, go. And you're not being successful if you're not, staying up all hours of the night working. It's no, you know
right,
what? I can work smarter, not harder, whenever I'm at my best and I'm at my peak. But taking
exactly.
time for yourself and getting the rest you need and doing overall wellness, I think is what makes you the best practitioner and the best pastor's wife and the best mom that you can be. So I think that is truly important to have those
It
boundaries
is.
in place.
It is. You said it. You nailed it. You can't be any good to anybody else until you take care of yourself. And I often tell my patients, if you're on an airplane and they do that little walkthrough.
Yeah.
They tell you to put your mask on first.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's so funny. I was just about to use that analogy.
Great minds think alike.
We're jiving here. I love
Right.
it. I love it. Well, that's so cool, and I think a lot of listeners are going to be juggling all of these areas of life too. So, you take your Mondays off, you work from home on Wednesdays, you have set aside family time, and that also frees you up that when you are at work for those set times, you're able to be present at work. You've
Right.
handled what you've needed elsewhere. You can kind of, in your mind a little bit, shut that door, at least for that specific amount of time, and give your best at work. And I think that's important too. God calls us
very important
to do that as well.
Yes.
So Melody, if you had like a life message or a passion or something you want to leave our listeners with, you've talked about, going holistic and going more of the natural route, which I think is so awesome for everyone to hear. But what is a piece of advice, or what's kind of your life mission that you would leave wanting to say your piece with?
My goal in life is to be totally as healthy as I could be. So basically, I guess you could say my mission is to help others learn to be the same. And there's 3 aspects to us as beings. We're spiritual, we're emotional, and we're physical. So you have to care for yourself in all 3 aspects: mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But physically comes into that as well. And that's my motto basically is be the best that I could be in all of these aspects.
Yeah.
And you have to have a good relationship with God, because it's He who gives us our strength. He gives us the wisdom, the healing that we need. You have to be whole emotionally, or you can't be there for people.
Right.
And you have to be well, or you sure can't be there.
Right.
And so just take care of yourself as best as you can, and in turn you can take care of your family, your others.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. That's awesome. So Melody, we've had a great time talking today, and I've learned so much. I have tons of notes written here, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. The wisdom that you've given in your path to more of a naturalistic approach to medicine as a practitioner, kind of the professional journey that took and your experience in a clinical setting, as well as balancing and juggling all the roles that you're facing. I think you're a testament that it can be done. You can have a career, you can have a successful clinic, and you can be a family person, as a mom, and you can also be really involved in your church, and it is possible to do. And something that I love, where I see it intersecting in your life as well, is you don't leave your clinic to go do your ministry. It's all together. What you are doing every day is your ministry. It's a form of it. And
it is. It really is.
There is a thread that's being interwoven in all of these podcast episodes that we're doing with these professional ladies, that it's one and the same. It's this is what you were called to. This is your spiritual calling, is to work in a professional setting and to shine your light. And I just think that is so cool, and that you're proving that it can be done. And so we're just really happy to have heard from you and, get to know your expertise a little bit. And there's one phrase that we're using to end our podcast with, and we're just asking people off the fly. What is saving your life right now?
My Mondays.
Good answer. I love
People hate Monday. I live for Monday.
Yes, that is fantastic. Her Mondays are saving her life. I love it. Well, it was so great to talk to you, and I know our listeners will get a lot out of this podcast and the journey that you shared to get where you're at. And if you have any last remarks, we'd love to hear that. If not, then we're just probably going to shut this down.
Well, ladies, take care of yourself. That's the big thing. That's my motto. People who know me know.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. I love it. And that's so important for women to hear.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much again. And it was an honor having you.
And thank you for this opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Absolutely.